Hello and welcome to Foresight Video 3 for our C# training series. And this one is going to be on multi-threading and passing data from one class to another while doing multi-threading. So actually we're going to be crossing over in threads at the same time. Hopefully that'll be an interesting video for you. Okay, so let's open up our Visual Studio. We're going to create a new project. It's going to be a Windows Form application and vid 3 threading. Close enough. We'll just call it that. Open up our form. And we're going to stick a button on the front of it. And now we're going to do two things. We're going to start out by creating a form load action and a button click action so that we now have a form and we have two items waiting for us to fill in to tell it what to do, which is a load and a button click. But first, before we do that, we're going to create 3 classes. We could do it with 2, but we'll do it with 3. Give you a good idea of how it can interact. So we're going to start with a new item. We're going to do the class. And I think we'll just call it my comms. So in here, now we're going to add a using, because we're going to just kind of create message boxes in here to indicate whether threads are moving or not moving. So let's use the system system.windows.forms, I believe, is the one. And we're going to be using system threading. So let's just start by making 2 more classes that are going to be very similar to this. New class. This one will be my display as an example. We're just going to pull this from there and paste it right to there. So now we have our 2 classes started up, and we'll just do one more. We'll add another class, which you see I could do it a little differently that way. Didn't have to, but both ways gets you the same thing. And then how about my logs? So this is kind of I guess an example of what could be going on in a project, and that would be that you'd want to be interacting with the comms and communication somehow with IOs, and you'd want to be displaying information, and you'd want to be recording a log. So this is kind of a I guess an example of interaction between different classes and having threading, because what we want is we want the display updating independently to things running, because if you do loops and such like that without threading, then what you'll have is you'll have a interface that when this form comes up on the desktop, once it starts going into a loop for doing work or anything like that, if it's all in one thread, it becomes unusable. You can't close it. You have to wait until it's over, or you have to go down and task manager, that type of thing. So you really want these to be independently operating. So the comms can be doing whatever they need to do while you move this form all around the page, or you can close it, or whatever you need to do. The point being is that it needs to be running independently. Okay, so let's set up our classes. The first one we're going to do is we'll just do the log class, and in the log class we're going to set up a public thread 1. Don't really want, maybe I should use like public my thread 1. So in the public thread 1, or my thread 1, what we want to do is, oh, sorry, we should have stuck a void in there. So in here, we're going to now just say, you know what, let's sleep for a minute. And the amount of time that we're going to do for this sleep is going to be 5 seconds. And then after we sleep for 5 seconds, we're going to see that the message box dot show, and in the message box we're just going to say that this is thread 1. So you can see that we've got ourselves a little method here. When we call it up and we get ready to go, it's going to allow us to see a message that pops up and said this is thread 1, so we will know that it's working. And then we're also going to add another method here, which is void. And this is going to be how we transfer things from one point to another between the classes and make it usable. Now, there's several ways to do it. This is going to be a simple way. We're just going to bring something coming from another thread moving into this thread. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to say my thread message. And we're going to require an input to this one. So it's going to be a string, and we'll just make it message. Again, if this all works correctly, a message box is going to come up. We're going to show it. And in that message box, this is I guess this is log class reading. I guess it's going to be, let's see. Yeah, we're going to be reading display class. How about the display data is, and then we're going to add in message. So in any case, there's our whole class for logging. It's we're not going to do anything more because these message boxes are going to allow us to see how the multi-threading is working. So at this point, we're going to take this first one and copy it, and we're going to bring it right over to our display, and we're going to drop it in there. The only difference is we're going to say this is thread 2. And we're going to change the sleep timer so that the message boxes aren't coming up at the same time. And we're going to say this one is 10 seconds. So one should pop up after 5, and then one will pop up after 10. Maybe we'll make the next one 15 15 or whatever the case may be. And then we are going to provide a public class which is defined as a string. And my string and we're going to straight up return this is from class display. So that's it. So that makes our display class all ready to go. And then in our com class, the same item that we did over here, we're going to put right there and change this one to thread 3. And we'll make this 15 seconds. So in theory, what we're seeing right now is that if all these classes run, the delays are different. They're going to be running at different times. And as you know, if you're running all in the same thread, when you do when a message box comes up, you can't go any further. Basically, it stops and waits for a button. So we should be able to prove that we're doing multi-threads by being able to see multi-message boxes come up on our screen. That is basically the test in order to determine what's going on. So how are we going to do that? Well, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to start out by providing a static static mylog. So we get the static mylog equals new. Nothing special about all this. We've done these type of things before. We're just instantiating our class in our main area. We're going to do it for all of them in the same way. Okay, let me just do a little pause here for a second. Okay, so basically all I did was finish out what we're doing. Now, as I went here, I set up our threads. So here's the threads. Thread mylogs is going to be starting and running this class and this mythread1 in the logs. And mythread1 in the logs says to sleep for 5 seconds and then bring up a message. So we're going to have to be looking for that. The myDisplay, same thing. Notice that they all say mythread1 because in our class we just copied and pasted and we changed the information inside, but we didn't change that. But that doesn't matter. There's not going to be a conflict because they're all running in different threads. So it'll be identified differently, not to mention it's identified differently by the different classes. So you can have all the same names. There is no concern with same names, although some people tried to keep everything different, but I like to keep them actually mostly the same and only change the headers if I can, but that's just my preference. So now in the form load, we have nothing more to do than to start our threads. So when the form loads, each one of these threads will start. And if each one of these threads starts, we already know we already know that what we're going to see is we're going to see 3 message boxes that come up in 5-second increments from the time that everything that got loaded. So in order to show that for sure, oh, what did I do? My logs. Yeah. So in order to show that for sure, we can actually run our form right now. We can save this. And we can run our form right now, and we should be able to see those 3 boxes. Now, that isn't passing information, but that is the beginning. So let's go ahead and look at that. Our form loads up. Approximately 5 seconds later, we should be seeing a thing. See how this is still going around? I can be moving it. Now it's going to lose its focus, but see, thread 2 came up 5 seconds later, and now we should have thread 3. So there's the 3 threads operating at different times. Now, if I put all the times at the same time, all 3 message boxes would come up at the exact same time, but they'd be in the same place. I'd have to put in placement information to get them to come up in different spots on the screen. So we're not going to do that. So how about our event? What do we want in our event? We want to pass information. We know that the my logs has. So let's get this message box to show here. So what do we need to do in order to do that? We need to simply say mlogs, which is one of our, and we know that our method that we're looking for is this my thread message, because that is what's going to control that message. And inside that, it requires to have a string message. Well, what is our string message? We created a string method in display, right? It's going to return a string. So this is information contained inside the display class that we're going to send over to the log class by simply saying mdisplay. Oh, what the hell was that? I'm confused here. All right, there it is. It's just that I broke away from it for a second. Okay, so there's our display. And we have now my string, right? My string was where we're actually have data stored, although hard-coded right now, it is stored in there. So we do this, we close everything out, and looks like everything is okay. We're going to try to build our solution, no problem. Let's start our debugging. So once again, now what are we going to do? We're going to see those 3 same boxes, 5-second intervals, because that happens during the time that the form is loading. So now this gets all loaded. We have those 3 forms, and guess what? There we go. This is log class reading display class. The display class is this from class display. Well, where the hell did all that come from? It came from right here. This log class is display. Even has the typo. Can't do that. Okay. And this display data is the message. The message which we have received is this is class display. So is that what we have in our boxes? This display data is class display. This display is from class display. So in any case, that is the whole idea of multi-threading and how you can pass information back and forth between our classes and move things and manipulate things around. I hope this was helpful in threading, and I look forward to showing you my next video.